Andrew, Audrey, Lily, Rita. Southwest Louisiana has a history of powerful storms, many devastating.
At 6:45, a humongous wave hit. They could see it coming. They knew that was the end. They said goodbye.
What lessons can we learn?
It was one of these things that we hadn't had anything since Audrey of that magnitude.
And how can we prepare for the next one? This is Surviving the Storm, a KPLC Hurricane Special. Thanks for joining us. I'm KPLC's Chief Meteorologist Wade Hampton. Tonight, along with meteorologist Ben Terry and Grant Roberts, we bring you our 2017 Hurricane Special.
From new technology to better track these storms, to tips on how to better prepare for severe weather, we'll be covering it all in the next 30 minutes.
We're nearly 2 months into the 2017 hurricane season, and we're just now entering the most active part of the season. Of course, each year the big question is, how active will it be?
To try and answer that, the folks at Colorado State University, NOAA, and others issue seasonal forecasts. This year, all sources agree that this season will be slightly above normal as far as the number of storms. An average year has 12 named storms, 6.5 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. The forecasts from Colorado State and NOAA have a few more storms, as you can see on this graphic. These numbers include the storms that have already occurred this year. Obviously, there's no way to know where any of those potential storms could hit, and it's possible none could impact the United States. However, it is worth noting that it only takes one storm impacting our area to turn a quiet season into a very active one. Ben and Grant have more.
So we've heard the storm predictions for the year.
Now let's talk about the dangers these storms can bring.
Storm surge.
The storm surge.
Well, storm surge.
The storm surge.
You've heard it before when talking about tropical storms. But what exactly is storm surge? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's when excess water comes out of the Gulf or large body of water and abnormally surges over the land. This happens because of atmospheric pressure changes and wind in association with storms. The highest recorded storm surge is 38 feet by Hurricane Katrina. Storm surge could possibly be higher depending on the strength of the storm. Back in 2005, Hurricane Rita created a 15 to 20 foot storm surge in Cameron Parish. So what does that mean to you? Storm surge is often the greatest threat to life and property. The National Hurricane Center announced that most coastal residents can remain in homes and be safe from a tropical cyclone's winds. However, evacuations are needed to keep people safe from surge. Earlier this year, we saw Tropical Storm Cindy. Cindy was very unorganized and did not bring a lot of damage to southwest Louisiana, and particularly did not have very strong winds. Yet that same storm did create a 3-foot storm surge. Imagine what a Category 5 hurricane would do. For precautionary and safety reasons, the National Hurricane Center now has a new protocol in place. They will now issue storm surge watches and warnings to highlight areas along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts with the greatest risk.
Well, this actually started back in 2015 after Hurricane Ike. The Hurricane Center started issuing prototype warnings on storm surge, and now we have official storm surge warnings.
A storm surge watch will be issued when there's potential life-threatening water moving inland within 48 hours. A storm surge warning will be issued when that danger is present or moving in within 36 hours. This will help the general public understand the threats of tropical weather better. It is also a new tool to help weather experts predict the dangers across the East Coast and right here in southwest Louisiana.
Well, just like with storm surge, we learn more from every storm and are able to develop new tools to help keep people safe.
And Ben, you're a new homeowner. Are you doing anything to protect your new property?
Well, I want to have my home as safe as possible before a storm hits, and one of the ways you can do that is by protecting the windows. Let's talk to someone who's gone through a few storms and has lived here a few years and get some tips.
Plywood or some sort of covering the windows is the way to go. And I learned during Rita firsthand, the plywood was already cut for the house that we moved into. And then I think right before Ike or right after Rita, I found out about these. These are called Plylocks. And they're basically just heavy-duty metal that wedges up against different sizes of plywood. And man, after I started using these, they're so simple. You just slide the plywood into the brick facing there, and it holds it. And just whenever you're through and ready to take it down, you just pull the plywood out with a good It pops out and you store them up for the next storm. Hopefully not soon.
In addition to plywood, which is the go-to standard in hurricane preparedness for your home, you may want to consider other alternatives such as metal shutters, which can offer your home better protection in a storm.
This is going to be much more storm resistant than plywood. Plywood eventually will come apart in the weather, depending on how long the storm lasts. The plywood will come apart. And this is all special order. None of this is stock, it's all custom sized.
An even better and more permanent solution for your home would be to consider having custom-built shutters that would stay up year-round and provide not only an aesthetic appeal, but also double as hurricane protection in the event of a storm.
And this is a composite shutter. It's made strictly out of composite material. It's got a 3/4 thickness on the center, which is important. Best thing about it is you just walk out, unhook it, and you can latch it down. There's a bolt right here, and that locks it to the wall. Aesthetically, they add a lot of beauty to the house. We've got several different styles we do. This is probably the most popular. It's got a 3/4 thickness in the center, which is what we need for hurricane protection. That meets the Florida standard. Something else, people that have a lot of windows on their house, they think, well, we can't afford that. But you can take, say, the front of the house, do the front, and then a year later do the other side that has the most windows, or however you want to do it. But plan it out and do it over a period of time, and you can get it done. I have a lot of customers that do that.
Of course, the more custom and fancy the shutters are, the more expensive they get. So make sure to do your homework and find a solution that fits your needs and stays within your budget. Just don't wait until there's a storm in the Gulf. Right now on your 7 News mobile app, we've got more home prepping tips for hurricane season.
From potential mass power outages to days of sheltering in place, our area hospitals must have an emergency plan set in place.
KPLC's Brittany Glazer reports the days of evacuating entire hospitals are gone. That's one of the biggest lessons learned after the chaos of Hurricane Rita and Katrina.
Emergency lights. These items here are all body bags.
Supplies you hope you don't need.
This is all dry goods stuff. It'd be just like at your house.
Non-perishable foods, water, cots, all stored for potential disasters.
Got a lot of exam gloves.
Something Lake Charles Memorial Director of Facilities and Safety Bill Wilkie has seen put to use in his 38 years at this hospital. 2005 was the ultimate challenge that changed the framework for hospital emergency preparedness.
It was one of these things that we hadn't had anything since Audrey of that magnitude.
Hurricanes Rita and Katrina taught emergency workers like Wilkie and designated response coordinator Scott Kyle at Christus St. Patrick Hospital that the sickest patients need to stay put, even with a threatening hurricane.
It's an undue burden on the patients to move them, and it can actually do more harm to them, moving them across the United States to evacuate them.
Identify which ones can be released early, which ones are there for, say, for an elective surgery or something like that we can just not do, and then which ones are the most critical.
Both agree the biggest improvements to hospital preparedness are communication, frequent emergency briefings, and the launch of the at-risk registry.
We record the patient's names, physicians, problems. It's uploaded through our electronic medical record. Then as that movement takes place from here to EMS to whether it's a C-130 aircraft, that's documented in the at-risk registry.
Families can track their evacuated loved ones through this site. And for those patients staying put, multiple generators with several days worth of fuel are connected to each hospital, ready to switch on within seconds of a power outage, keeping critical operations going in the midst of a storm.
These hospitals are not set to receive an influx of patients with medical needs who are capable of handling them on their own.
That means if you rely on medical equipment or special medication, your individual emergency plan needs to include evacuation in the event of a storm.
Homeowners insurance is a must in Southwest Louisiana, but do you know how much you could pay out of pocket if a storm does damage your home? Why your deductible could be more than you think it is, and the deadline to buy it if you haven't already. You're watching Surviving the Storm, a KPLC Hurricane Special.
Surviving the Storm, a KPLC Hurricane Special. is sponsored by Popeyes, Lake Charles Memorial Hospital, and Southern Mobile Home and RV.
I'm from a special generation. Different. We changed history. So nobody's going to tell me how to live at 62. I'm going to live the way I feel. And I feel good. I'm a doer. Nothing's going to hold me back. But I'm not overlooking my health. No way. That's why I have Memorial. They're the best. A different kind of health care for my generation.
If it's not a Tempur-Pedic, it's a compromise. When I was a Navy SEAL, I put in a special request to get one, and I realized that Tempur-Pedic was exponentially better than anything else. It gave me a huge performance advantage. It still does.
Tempur-Pedic sleep is power.
At Mattress Show and New Look Furniture, we know the power of a great night's sleep. Have it delivered today. Free delivery, free pillows, special financing available. We save you money!
So this is the place.
Yep, where my new hot honey crunch tenders get their start.
Whoa, I've never had honey like this.
It's a little bit of sweet and a little bit of heat.
Who's that guy?
Oh, he's an intern.
Oh.
What's so different about Popeye's hot honey crunch tenders? Well, I marinate them in spiced honey seasonings and drizzle them with my red hot honey sauce so they're bursting with flavor. Come on by for 3 tenders, a side, and a biscuit for just $5.
You ready to go camping?
Well, yeah, Gavin. Let's go through the checklist.
Let's check the water lines and fixtures for leaks.
Southern stocks all the plumbing fittings you need to get going.
Is the AC and refrigerator working?
I sure hope so. I hate to be hot or have hot drinks.
Southern stocks several models of ACs and refrigerators.
Don't forget to check the lights.
How many bulbs do you think we'll need? You know they burn out fast.
Southern stocks 12-volt LED bulbs that last up to 50,000 hours.
Let's make our first stop.
Southern Mobile Home and RV Supply.
Welcome back. We've talked about protection for our homes from the storm, but even with the best protection, our property can still be damaged.
And if that happens, you're going to want insurance to pick up those pieces.
The state insurance commissioner has some advice this hurricane season. When buying a basic homeowner's insurance policy, you may think you're ready for the storms ahead, but you could be surprised to find it costs you much more than expected if damage occurs to your home from a tropical storm or hurricane. Hurricane deductibles, as they're called, are based on a percentage of your insured value and can cost you thousands, according to State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donellan.
And typically, for a homeowner, that's $200,000 of insured value. A 5% named storm deductible is a $10,000 deductible before your coverage starts to kick in to pay for that ruptured roof that the tree that fell on it caused as part of a hurricane or named storm event.
And remember, don't wait until there's a storm in the Gulf to purchase homeowners insurance, because it takes 30 days from the time you submit your application until it goes into effect. And many insurance companies stop writing policies altogether when a storm enters the Gulf of Mexico. Another thing to remember is that a basic homeowner's insurance policy does not cover flood damage. That's extra, but well worth it, according to Donellan.
The best insurance by any property owner in Louisiana, from Holly Beach to Monroe, from Shreveport to Grand Isle, can make, is the significantly subsidized still National Flood Insurance Program.
Even if we don't see flooding from a tropical storm or hurricane this year, Southwest Louisiana residents still benefit from the National Flood Insurance Program simply because it protects against any time your home gets flooded, which for some residents in Southwest Louisiana seems to be an all too often occurrence.
56 of our 64 parishes have been declared disaster parishes by the President in the last 2 years, 14 of them twice, as a result of, in the northwest part of the state, the rising waters of the Red River, and then rain-caused flood in Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and the Florida parishes, flooding hundreds, if not thousands, of homes over the past 2 years.
Ben, let's go ahead and talk about flood insurance now.
Well, if you live in a flood zone, your mortgage lender requires you to buy flood insurance. Now, that doesn't mean if you live outside a flood zone or in Zone X, you still should not get flood insurance.
That's right. Even in Southwest Louisiana, regardless of your elevation, you still want flood insurance.
Next, his words live on.
Get out and get out now while you can.
A Cameron Parish man who lost 7 family members to Hurricane Audrey delivers some powerful advice he hopes will not be forgotten. You're watching Surviving the Storm, a KPLC Hurricane Special.
I come from a special generation. Different. We sparked a cultural revolution. So, who made the rules about what 55 should be? Well, I'm shaking up the rules. I'm not going gently into that good night. So I've got to stay healthy for me and my family. That's why I have Memorial. They're the best. A different kind of health care for my generation.
Congratulations on your new home. And if you're just moving into the lake area, welcome. I want to invite you to New Look Furniture. I encourage you to come by and see why New Look Furniture is the #1 furniture store in Southwest Louisiana. All the top brands in furniture and bedding in stock so you can have it delivered today. And with so many designer fabrics, customize your piece and make it completely your own. Special financing available. Our family serving your family with excellence, because at New Look Furniture, we save you money.
So this is the place.
Yep, where my new hot honey crunch tenders get their start.
Whoa, I've never had honey like this.
It's a little bit of sweet and a little bit of heat.
Who's that guy?
Oh, he's an intern.
Oh.
What's so different about Popeye's hot honey crunch tenders? Well, I marinate them in spiced honey seasonings and drizzle them with my red hot honey sauce so they're bursting with flavor. Come on by for 3 tenders, a side, and a biscuit for just $5.
Well, the best way we can prepare for each hurricane season is to recall some of the storms of past and some of the lessons we've learned.
And Southwest Louisiana certainly has a memorable history of storms that have impacted our area. And in fact, this year marks the anniversary of some of those storms. Until Hurricane Rita, the storm of record for Southwest Louisiana was Hurricane Audrey. This year marks 60 years since Audrey made landfall in Cameron Parish. Teresa Schmidt will tell us more on Audrey in a few minutes, but Audrey proves that we can't wait until the prime of the season to be prepared, because Audrey was a June hurricane. It is one of the strongest storms on record to ever reach the United States in the month of June, and still holds the record as the 7th deadliest hurricane in history. Obviously, Hurricane Katrina eclipsed the mark set by Audrey, but for Southwest Louisiana, Audrey remains the deadliest hurricane in our history. Another memorable storm in our area occurred 25 years ago. The year was 1992, and that was Hurricane Andrew. Andrew was noteworthy because it occurred in a season that was expected to be below average. However, Andrew proves that it only takes one storm to turn a quiet season into a disastrous one if you are in the path of a hurricane. Andrew was only the 3rd Category 5 hurricane to make landfall in the United States when it came ashore over South Florida. 2 days later, Andrew made landfall near Morgan City as a Category 3 hurricane. Luckily, this was far enough east that impacts were limited across Southwest Louisiana. Audrey was an early storm, while Andrew occurred in the heart of the season. On the other hand, Hurricane Lily was a late season storm occurring in October of 2002. This is the 15th anniversary of Lily making landfall near Intracoastal City. Lily weakened to a Category 1 storm just before making landfall, and this lessened the impacts to Southwest Louisiana. Lily had winds of 145 miles per hour less than 24 hours before making landfall. Impact could have been much worse if it were not for the weakening, but significant damage still occurred across eastern portions of Southwest Louisiana. Obviously, we've had many storms impact southwest Louisiana. Those mentioned were just a few.
Well, like you said, Hurricane Audrey took hundreds of lives when it hit in 1957. KPLC's Teresa Schmidt revisits an interview with one Audrey survivor who has since passed, but his words live on.
It's estimated between 400 and 500 people perished in Hurricane Audrey, which crept on shore earlier than expected about 3 a.m., June 27, 1957. The loss and heartbreak unimaginable for so many. The late Rodney Gilbo lost 7 family members, including his mother.
At 6:45, a humongous wave hit. They could see it coming. They knew that was the end. They said goodbye. I said an act of contrition. The wave was over the high lines, the electric lines, which put it in the vicinity of 50 feet or so. And when it hit the house exploded.
For decades, Gilbo told the story of Hurricane Audrey. His purpose, to make sure all heard the message, heed storm warnings, and leave when needed.
Water is a powerful force. You need to be prepared for hurricanes and be ready to leave.
Gilbo's daughter, Anna Lee, was only 7 when Audrey hit. She's grateful to have spent time with her grandma and other family who would soon die in the hurricane.
I was with them, actually, the week before, and got very homesick. So my parents picked me up that Sunday. I was going to be with them during the hurricane, yes. So grateful that my life was spared.
And she says her dad, Rodney, always told the story of her grandfather, the only one of 10 people in the house who lived.
He was the only one to survive, and actually survived by floating on a dead cow.
And even as Rodney grew older and weak from health issues, he never wavered when it came to telling the story of Audrey.
Get out, and get out now while you can. Because if you wait until it passes, you may not have a chance to get out.
With modern communications and forecasting, it's unlikely a tragedy such as Audrey will happen again, at least here, in part because the story of those who lost so much continues to be passed one generation to the next.
Audrey certainly left its mark on southwest Louisiana.
A storm we can still learn from today.
For many at KPLC, we'll never forget what it's like to go through a tropical storm or hurricane because we stayed here to report every development when Rita washed ashore. Next, what Cynthia Arsenault, John Bridges, and others here at the station remember most about that storm. You're watching Surviving the Storm, a KPLC Hurricane Special.
You ready to go camping?
Well, yeah, Gavin. Let's go through the checklist.
Let's check the water lines and fixtures for leaks.
Southern stocks all the plumbing fittings you need to get going.
Is the AC and refrigerator working?
I sure hope so. I hate to be hot or have hot drinks.
Southern stocks several models of ACs and refrigerators.
Don't forget to check the lights.
How many bulbs do you think we'll need? You know they burn out fast.
Southern stocks 12-volt LED bulbs that last up to 50,000 hours.
Let's make our first stop.
Southern Mobile Home and RV Supply.
So this is the place.
Yep, where my new hot honey crunch tenders get their start.
Whoa, I've never had honey like this.
It's a little bit of sweet and a little bit of heat.
Who's that guy?
Oh, he's an intern. What's so different about Popeye's hot honey crunch tenders? Well, I marinate them in spiced honey seasonings and drizzle them with my red hot honey sauce so they're bursting with flavor. Come on by for 3 tenders, a side, and a biscuit for just $5.
This is Kay. Kay lives for the weekend. Food, family, and fun, here we come. But when Kay tries to plan her weekend, her phone's stock weather app is missing the here. Here is in the local 7-Storm team, committed to keeping her informed. So she got the new free 7-Storm Team First Alert weather app. It gives her the fastest warnings and updates that are personalized just for her location. Plan away, Kay. You're connected to here, and no one knows here better than KPLC 7 News.
Welcome back. Well, for southwest Louisiana, Hurricane Rita was the storm we will never forget.
While it was before some of our time, including me, those that work here at KPLC share their memories of the storm.
And there's not too many of us left at KPLC that were there during Hurricane Rita. I was one of those that was there, though, and here are some of our memories from Rita.
People always ask me, what was that like? And I still think about those sounds. I
always think it was like hearing, 100 demons talking. When you hear the roar of 120-mile-an-hour winds and you were feeling it.
Another sound that comes to mind was the sound of gurgling water in the drain pipes. It was something that kind of freaked some people out, but I kind of had knowledge of what that was. My parents had went through a hurricane the year before in Florida, and people back there had told me that the sound of water gurgling in toilets and sinks happened as the hurricane winds were getting stronger, and that's something that happened.
At one point, they had to actually have us leave the station and go to Christ St. Patrick Hospital, and we were broadcasting. We had a makeshift television station on the 5th floor of Christ St. Patrick Hospital.
We had one microphone, one TV, and one camera, and we were basically just broadcasting to whoever would hear us, either on the internet, kplctv.com, or on the transmitter. We stayed on the air during the entire time. We answered several calls from people who wanted us to go to their houses and let their dogs out. They thought they were only going to be gone for a day or two, and they put their dog in the utility room or back in the storage shed, and they would ask us if they'd go to such and such address, if we would go to such and such address and actually let their dog out or feed their dogs. And of course, some of the houses we couldn't even get to.
I've covered a lot of storms, but Rita was the first storm that I saw, at the break of dawn when we were able to go out and see the damage. Every house, every building in Lake Charles was touched by it. There was damage widespread.
Just as much as preparing a hurricane kit and listening to all the warnings and maybe setting aside some money for having to evacuate, for many of us, our spiritual life is one of the main hurricane protection kits that we rely on. So this is one of my favorite prayers for safety in hurricane season. O God, Master of this passing world, hear the humble voices of your children. The Sea of Galilee obeyed your order and returned to its former quietude. You are still the master of the land and sea. We live in the shadow of a danger over which we have no control. The Gulf, like a provoked and angry giant, can awake from its seeming lethargy and overstep its conventional boundaries, invade our land, and spread chaos and disaster.
I think the one thing I take away from Hurricane Rita is that Rita is not the worst storm that could happen to Southwest Louisiana, and that's something I try to tell people still to this day, because obviously before that it was Audrey that people remembered, but people nowadays are going to remember Rita, and I don't want folks to be comparing storms to Rita, because there could be a storm in the future that's worse. So we always have to plan for the worst. We can't plan for what happened during Rita.
And here's our promise to you this hurricane season and next. We will track every storm, and we will warn you when a storm is coming this way.
We will keep you informed every step of the way on all of our devices, whether that be on air, online, or on your mobile devices.
And we will use the very latest in technology to keep you and your family safe, because we are always at your service.
Get your news on the go. Download the free KPLC News and Weather apps. Search KPLC in your app store today.